This conference will now be recorded.
Right. Let me refresh this page. One moment. Yeah. So I've just powered on the virtual machine, and also to save the cost of this public IP address, because as I told you, public IP address also will have some cost incurred when you create. So what I did was I have deleted public IP address also for the virtual machine, because I know how to create public IP address and I can link it to that virtual machine whenever I need. That's the reason I have deleted this public IP address, but I kept virtual machine in shutdown state, so which will save the cost of your subscription. Okay, so which we'll discuss the remaining steps in few minutes. Just give me a second. Right. So there is no public IP address. We cannot able to connect to this virtual machine, which is fine. And let's go with the remaining options. Until unless we see that public IP address needed, I will not be creating. I will not be creating public IP address for now. So there are a lot of measures coming for me in a different device to discuss on this topic, but I'm just keeping it. Okay. So we have covered up to this point configuration, and we have covered like proximity placement group, host group, and capacity reservations, and also this user data. Okay. And the next option we have here is identity. So this identity part I'm going to discuss after the virtual, not after this. This is at the end of our sessions. It means whatever we have used virtual machines, it is our lab machines. It means we have created the user accounts on our own, and we have used those accounts to log into that virtual machine. Okay. Now, if you consider this identity in each and every organization, there will be IDs, right? Let's say if you are working for Wipro, and I'm just taking as an example as Wipro, user1 at the rate wipro.com. It means your ID will be at the rate wipro.com. Whoever the employee of Wipro, they will get IDs like this. If they are from TCS, let's say xyz at the rate tcs.com. There might be different domains, but these are official IDs that they will be using, right? But for now, what we have used is, it is just like this. Username will be like this because it is our private domain, and not private domain, it is our lab machine, and then password for that, something like this. So in order to use this official accounts on these virtual machines, this identity is required, and that's the reason we have this feature. And under identity, we have got a concept of system assigned and user assigned. Why do we need this one? To manage the users across all the enterprise, whatever the global offices that you have, you can manage all the users using one single server. Okay, so which is a concept of Azure Active Directory. or Active Directory. People will call it as identity as well, identity servers, which are nothing but Active Directory services. Okay, so for now, we are not going to cover to avoid confusion at this stage. Properties, because if you want to create, let's say you have got 100 users who wanted to use this virtual machine, you need to create 100 accounts for them on this machine itself. And let's say the same persons, whoever has got like 100, right, 100 persons here logging into this machine, and if the same 100 persons wants to log into other machine, it is difficult to create accounts in the other machine because those are not in domain, those are not in centrally managed device, which is Active Directory. So ignore that topic, we'll see that in next level. Now go through these properties, and here we have got status as running, computer name, and private IP addresses, things like this. Okay, this is just an informational console where you can see resource ID, location, availability zone, and all of this stuff. And logs, as usual, we have discussed these logs. Maybe you don't have an option to create a log as part of the contributor role. Okay, we'll see that. Now, so before I discuss about this bastion, let's see auto shutdown. Let's say you have a business hours from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. and after 6 p.m. if you want to go for auto shutdown, sometimes you might forget to shut down manually. So if you enable this auto shutdown, let's say I wanted to shut down every day at 6 p.m. after my business hours on Indian time zone, I will choose the time zone as well. Let's see here plus 5:30, and you can ask for notifications if you want to get notified saying that this machine is going to shut down. Before 5 to 10 minutes, you will get an email, and also you will get a notification if you are working on that server. This feature is useful if you want to save the cost of your virtual machine, and if you have non-priority servers. ఎందుకంటే we cannot go for shutdown for production virtual machines, right? Let's say Flipkart or Amazon. So Flipkart websites కానీ లేకపోతే Flipkart apps కానీ ఈవినింగ్ 6 p.m. తర్వాత వర్క్ అవుతాయి కదా. It means it is a business where they run for 24/7, which are into production. అదే ఫ్లిప్కార్ట్ లో డెవలప్మెంట్ సర్వర్స్ అని నాన్ ప్రొడక్షన్ సర్వర్స్ అని ఇట్లా బ్యాక్ ఎండ్ లో ఉంటాయి అన్నమాట. అవి రెగ్యులర్ గా యూస్ చేయకపోతే దే కెన్ గో ఫర్ షట్ డౌన్. Okay, where they can save the cost on this environment, and that's the benefit of this auto shutdown. If you recall, for all of your virtual machines there will be auto shutdown enabled. Yes, there is an auto shutdown which is by default on. Okay, you might not notice this option, but it is enabled. If you have disabled at the time of VM creation, it will be in off mode. Even if you forget till 7 p.m. UTC time, your machine will go for shutdown. Same like here in demo VM as well. Okay, now let's come back to this. There is an option for auto start as well, where you can do start of your virtual machine under a different concept, which is automation. Okay, here is a feature, and all the tasks here are in still preview. Preview అంటే ఏంటి? Still Microsoft is developing the features in the backend. However, you can use it for testing in non-production environments, not applicable for production. Okay, see here, start a virtual machine, power off virtual machine, and deallocate virtual machines. Once all of these options are available for general usage, because now it is in preview. Once it is available for general usage, then you might not see the option here auto shutdown. ఇక్కడున్న ఫీచర్ కూడా ఓన్లీ ఇందులో మాత్రమే ఉంటుంది అనమాట. ఆటోమేషన్, add tasks, and here we have seen already some settings under storage account and networks. You can start a virtual machine, you can power off, deallocate, and you can schedule the time as we have seen for auto schedule. You can also get the monthly cost for your resource if you want to track the cost of that resource. Okay, we'll come back to this section again. Auto shutdown, yes, we've covered this. Now backup and all these settings up to this point, up to these policies will be covered later, because I don't want to deviate the VM configuration into backup section. So let's see about this Bastion. Right. So now we call it as Azure Bastion, or people will call it as Bastion, whatever it is. Let me give the use case for that Bastion service. Right. I don't have any VPN for my virtual machine. Okay. So I've got only, if I go back to this networking, there is no public IP address because I have disassociated. I've got only private IP address, which is mandatory for any virtual machine that you create in Azure. Without this private IP address, without this VNet and subnet, you cannot create a virtual machine, which is mandatory. But without public IP address, you can create. Now, why companies will not accept public IP addresses to link to the virtual machines? Because it is a security risk, and since it is public IP address, there are a lot of chances that the hackers may get control over these virtual machines. We cannot say, but there are high chances because it is uh, published through public internet, and that's why we call it as public IP address. So to avoid that kind of risks, most of the security teams in the enterprises, they will be blocking this public IP address directly linked to the virtual machines. Okay. Now, let's see how we can connect to the virtual machine. Now, we don't have public IP address. We don't have virtual machine VPN. There is no VPN like point to site ledu, express route ledu, site to site ledu, ఏది లేదు. But still I wanted to connect to a virtual machine. And in order to connect to a virtual machine securely without having this public IP address, then we need Azure Bastion. So this is going to be helpful for you to connect to your virtual machine securely using port number HTTPS. It uses port HTTPS, which is 443, and you will be using it through the browser. ఇక్కడ మనం క్రోమ్ వాడుతున్నాం కదా, సారీ మైక్రోసాఫ్ట్ ఎడ్జ్ వాడుతున్నాం కదా బ్రౌజర్ ఇక్కడ. సో నేను ఇక్కడ బ్రౌజర్ లోనే యాక్సెస్ చేయొచ్చు అనమాట. It is accessible only through the browser. There is no RDP, there is no other connectivity type that you can use. There is no MSTSC, nothing. You can still log into the virtual machine and work on the browser itself, because it is going to have HTTPS protocol, and we will be going through that. Now, let's come back to Bastion. This is a part of operations. Now, you can directly deploy Bastion here using this feature, or you can configure manually. Okay. Once you create this Bastion, it is going to use this name. The name of the Bastion is this one. These are the default names that has been given by Microsoft service. If you want to modify this, click on this manually. You have an option to choose the name of the bastion. Let's use our customized name, and then we will see how we can proceed further. So name of the bastion, let's say demo VM, and that bastion will work only for that virtual machine, not for all the machines. Okay, demo VM1 bastion host. People will call it as bastion host. Location, irrespective of the location where your virtual machine is located, because let me show you here. Right, our location here is East US. Okay, and but there is, let me search for East US here. Yes, here it is. So I'm choosing, because for some services location doesn't matter. Okay, but still we follow the best practices. If the location is there on the list, we choose that location East US. And I'll go with the standard. There is no change here. Instance count, you can go with the default settings, because this Azure Bastion will also create another additional virtual machine in the backend, but we cannot see that virtual machines. So that's where we call it as instance. I will give an example. Like if people will call it as, can you create one VM? Yes, you are going to create a server. And if people call it as one instance of virtual machine, it is also the creation of virtual machine. Instance is nothing but one time, two instances, two times, something like that. Okay. So here we are giving two instances for Bastion, which is the default one. అంటే ఏంటి, నార్మల్ విఎం ఉంటుంది, బట్ బ్యాక్ ఎండ్ లో ఇంకొక అడిషనల్ గా ఈ విఎంస్ క్రియేట్ అవుతాయి, ఎందుకంటే మనం ఆ విఎం నుండి కనెక్ట్ అవ్వడానికి. ఓకే, దట్ ఈస్ ద సెక్యూరిటీ థింగ్ దట్ దే హ్యావ్ డన్ ఇన్ ద బ్యాక్ ఎండ్. Virtual network, on which virtual network you are trying to create and link it to the Bastion. Our virtual network is this one. మన విఎం ఎక్కడుంది, prod VM OZ01 VNet లో ఉంది. So I'm choosing that one, VNet. See here, to associate a virtual network with a Bastion, it must contain a subnet with name Azure Bastion subnet. ఒక సబ్నెట్ ఉండాలి. సో ఆ సబ్నెట్ ఎలా ఉండాలి, ఈ పేరుతో ఉండాలి, Azure Bastion subnet అనే ఇవ్వాలి, వేరే నేమ్ ఇస్తే వర్క్ అవ్వదు. సో అది క్రియేట్ చేయాలంటే మన దగ్గర ఫ్రీ ఐపీ అడ్రసెస్ ఉండాలి. లెట్ మీ క్లిక్ ఆన్ దిస్ VNet. అందుకోసమనే whenever you create a virtual network, make sure you have the free IP addresses available, because we don't know when we are going to use that subnet IP addresses. If you have free IP addresses, you can use it for multiple purposes. Subnets, there is only one subnet, and which is having 64 IP addresses total, and our address space is 256 IP addresses. So still I've got 192 IP addresses available. Subnet, and I will choose Azure Bastion subnet. Okay, because without this name, it is not valid with any other name. Okay, and they are clearly asking that they need /26, which means they wanted to change this one, which will give you 64 IP addresses. Okay, so now it's the time to discuss about these 5 addresses. Already I told you why we need this 5 IP addresses. Any range that you take, slash 26 is actually 64 IP addresses. 64 minus 5, which will be 59. Only 59 will be available to utilize that for our networks. Okay, so if 5 ఎందుకంటే it is required to enable communications from your VNet to Azure data center networks. Interviews లో questions వస్తాయి అన్నమాట. So if I create slash 24 range of VNet, how many IP addresses that will be available on that? Simple, 256 minus 5, which is 251. ఇక్కడ 59 plus 5 is 64. I'm telling in another way. 64 minus 5, 59. ఎట్లనే కన్సిడర్ చేసుకోవచ్చు. So these 5 IP addresses will be useful to enable backend communications from your VNet to Azure data center network. You no need to choose any of these things. This is automatic. Everything will be done with its default configuration. Okay, so that's the benefit of this 5 Azure reserved. That's the reason we call it as Azure reserved IP addresses. Now, not only for this Bastion subnet, whatever the subnet you create, whatever the VNet you create, out of that there will be -5. Whether it is a small size or big size, it is mandatory to go ahead with this option. Now, so I've chosen this Bastion subnet name, and then I've given the range of subnet as per the recommendation here, and I will save it. Okay, so now subnet 1 is already being used by our normal network, and here I should find a subnet. So subnet is already there. I'm just choosing that one. నేను ఏం చేశాను, సపరేట్ విండోలోకి వచ్చి క్రియేట్ చేశాను. Now I'm using that by clicking on that Bastion manage subnet configuration. Okay, so let's go back to this Bastion. Right, ఇక్కడ మేనేజ్ సబ్నెట్ అని కొట్టంగానే నేను ఇంకో విండోలో క్రియేట్ చేసింది నాకు కనిపించింది. బికాస్ if I don't want to do that one, I have to refresh this page and then it will be displayed here in this section. Okay, see here, it is also showing another subnet, but clearly they have mentioned that the selected subnet is not supported. Right, so we have to use only with this name and with the right range. Now, we were speaking about public IP address, security, and all the stuff. However, when you create a Bastion host, it is going to create public IP address, but it is not directly linked to this virtual machine. It is an indirect connection which you will have more security controls through Azure Bastion host. Okay, ఇండైరెక్ట్ గా పబ్లిక్ ఐపీ అడ్రస్ క్రియేట్ చేసి అండ్ బ్యాక్ ఎండ్ లో అడిషనల్ గా కొన్ని ఇన్స్టెన్సెస్ క్రియేట్ చేసి అండ్ ప్రోటోకాల్ 3389 జనరల్ గా మనం యూస్ చేసేది ఆర్డిపి కోసం కనెక్ట్ అవ్వడానికి. బట్ దే ఆర్ గోయింగ్ టు యూస్ పోర్ట్ నెంబర్ HTTPS. If someone asks you, can you tell me the port of Azure Bastion to connect to virtual machine? It is port 443. This is the HTTPS port. HTTP is nothing but like it is a secured protocol, hypertext transfer protocol. Now it is asking for public IP address name. Name వాళ్ళు ఇచ్చేసారు ఇక్కడ. I'm just changing it to this public IP address or something like this because I need to identify it easily after a few months. Otherwise, it will be difficult to track and validate if there are any configuration changes. Okay, review and create, and this will be done quickly. And create, let's see. Right, so let it create, and now I'll come back to this virtual machine and Bastion. So it is still in updated state. Let's see once it is ready. Right, so let it go on. We will see some other option by the time it gets created. Okay, these are next level. So from here, backup, disaster recovery, these two concepts are coming under Azure Recovery Services wall, and remaining things, this will be under log analytics workspace, which we are going to see in the upcoming sessions. For now, I'm skipping this just to avoid the confusion. So this concept, which is run command. So if you are facing any issues, and if you're not able to log into the virtual machine through Azure Bastion or through any other mode, you can run commands using this console. You no need to log into the virtual machine. Okay, let's say you want to see the public IP address or IP address by logging into the virtual machine. You can see if you have the username and password and the connectivity. But if you still want to see, you can use this console. Let me use this command. ఇక్కడ క్లిక్ చేయగానే స్క్రిప్ట్ అంతా రెడీగా ఉంటుంది. యూ నో నీడ్ టు రైట్ ఎనీ స్క్రిప్ట్, రన్ ఇట్. ఇక్కడ మనకు అవుట్పుట్ వస్తుంది అనమాట. అంటే ఏంటి, ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ predefined and inbuilt commands, or if you have your own commands that needs to be seen here in this section without logging into the virtual machine, you can execute. Okay, ఇక్కడ ipconfig/all అని కొట్టాను కమాండ్, మనకు IP డీటెయిల్స్ అని ఇక్కడ రావాలన్నమాట. It will take time for the first time, and then it will be very fast going forward after the first execution. You can see that script execution is in progress. So you might get a doubt, నాకు IP అడ్రస్ ఇక్కడ పోర్టల్లో నెట్వర్కింగ్కి వెళ్ళి చూసుకోవచ్చు కదా అని. ఎస్, వీ కెన్ సీ దట్. హవెవర్, ఐఎమ్ జస్ట్ గివింగ్ అన్ ఎగ్జాంపుల్. దిస్ ఈస్ అన్ ఆప్షన్ టు ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ కమాండ్స్ వితౌట్ లాగింగ్ ఇన్ టు ద విర్చువల్ మిషన్, బట్ యూ హ్యావ్ టు లాగ్ ఇన్ టు ద పోర్టల్. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ మనకు IP అడ్రస్ అన్నీ వచ్చేసాయి. వేర్ యూ కెన్ సీ 10004 is our actual IP address. There is no public IP address here. Okay, similarly, if you have your own script, PowerShell script, click on this, Raghu. For your certificate issue, you can try creating certificates from this command as well, or you log into this virtual machine and open PowerShell, because these machines are latest machines which we are using, Windows Server 2019. You can create certificate there just for a lab, okay? Just for creating a certificate. Execute the certificate and see whether the commands I've given are working or not, okay? You can copy your command here and execute it. So still there are many things like RDP settings. అంటే ఏంటి, ఇందులో ఏదో బై డిఫాల్ట్ గా సెట్టింగ్స్ ఎనేబుల్ అయిపోయాయి. ఎట్లాగా, లెట్ మీ షో యూ హియర్. ప్రాపర్టీస్ లో in each and every laptop there will be a concept like remote settings. ఓకే, ఇక్కడ ఇదేంటంటే ఆఫ్లో ఉంది. అంటే ఇప్పుడు నా మెషిన్ని ఎవరు రిమోట్ తీసుకోలేరు, నా ల్యాప్టాప్ని నోబడి కెన్ టేక్ కంట్రోల్. ఓకే, సో యూ కెన్ యూజ్ దిస్ ఫీచర్. సిమిలర్లీ ఆ ఫీచర్ డిసేబుల్ అయింది అజ్యూర్ మెషిన్లో, అప్పుడు ఏం చేస్తావు, లాగిన్ అవ్వలేనప్పుడు అది ఎనేబుల్ చేయాలంటే కష్టం కదా. యూ కెన్ ఎగ్జిక్యూట్ ఆర్డిపి సెట్టింగ్స్ హియర్. యూ కెన్ వ్యూ ఆర్డిపి సెట్టింగ్స్, you can do all of this, some remote desktop port settings to enable that RDP. Okay, and if you have own commands you can execute using this first point run PowerShell script, and remaining అన్ని కూడా default గా ఇబ్బంది లేకుండా స్క్రిప్ట్స్ అక్కడ రెడీగా ఇచ్చేసారు. And there the first feature is where you're going to execute on your own by using your own script. Right, so the next step is Bastion. Again, we'll come back to this. I am refreshing this page. Okay, still it is updating. Looks like it is taking time. Okay, let's go with other options by the time it gets created. Or let me search for this creation process. Bastion IP address is created. Okay, and home. Virtual machine, and then again Bastion. Right, let it go. Now we have got monitoring. So under monitoring, if you look at insights, these features you have to use when there is a requirement for CPU monitoring and monitoring of your disks, ఎంత కెపాసిటీ ఉంది ఏంటి అనేసి చూసుకోవడానికి you can use this feature. However, this feature needs log analytics workspace. If I want to click on enable, see here it is asking a log analytics workspace. So this is a different solution where you can use it for advanced monitoring. So in enterprise, monitoring is also very crucial, not only for your one virtual machine or two virtual machines. If you have a critical applications, critical servers, it needs to be monitored 24/7, because if there is any business outage, monitoring team will be able to respond. Monitoring team will be able to respond, and they will take the relevant team. I mean, they will take action to get in touch with the relevant team, and they can take action. Okay, so such kind of advanced configurations for monitoring, especially under the virtual machines, can be configured under log analytics workspace. But for now, as I told you, ఇక్కడ ఉన్నాయి కదా ఇన్వెంటరీ, చేంజ్ ట్రాకింగ్, ఇవన్నీ కూడా ఇందులో వస్తాయి, ఈ కాన్సెప్ట్ లో వస్తాయి లాగ్ అనలిటిక్స్ వర్క్ స్పేస్ లో. ఓకే, సో ఐ డోంట్ వాంట్ టు డీవియేట్ దోస్ settings now. And as we know, you can still configure this alerts. Since we have already discussed alerts multiple times, again I'm just giving a brief update here. It means you can create alert based on the rule that you want. Let's say your CPU utilization is going beyond 80%. అంటే ఏంటి, మన సిస్టంలో one moment. Right, so in each and every device there will be a settings which you can manage system, and where is that, I'll use shortcut to see that performance. Okay. I'm going to use this command prompt because in Windows 11 there are a lot of settings which has got changed. Yes. So using this console, performance. So our system performance is based on totally CPU and memory. And then next level is disk. ఒక్కొక్కసారి డిస్క్ యూటిలైజేషన్ ఎక్కువ అవుతుంటుంది అనమాట. అంటే ఎక్కువ వీడియోస్ ప్లే చేస్తున్నాం, మల్టిపుల్ వీడియోస్ అట్ ఏ టైం ప్లే చేశారు అనుకోండి, ఈ మెమరీ యూటిలైజేషన్ ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది, సిపి యూటిలైజేషన్ ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది, అండ్ డిస్క్ యూటిలైజేషన్ కూడా ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది. ఎప్పుడు ఆన్లైన్ వీడియోస్ ప్లే చేసినప్పుడు కాదు, లోకల్ సిస్టంలో వీడియోస్ ఉన్నప్పుడు అండ్ అవి ప్లే చేసినప్పుడు డిస్క్ రీడ్ చేయాలి కదా ఆ వీడియోస్ని. సో అప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, ఈ డిస్క్ యూటిలైజేషన్ పెరుగుతుంది అనమాట. సో జనరల్గా ఎంటర్ప్రైజ్ లెవెల్ ఎలా ఉంటుంది, ఆల్ ఆఫ్ దిస్ త్రీ థింగ్స్ ఆర్ వెరీ క్రూషియల్ ఫర్ ద సర్వర్స్. ఎందుకంటే అక్కడ అప్లికేషన్స్ ఇట్లా యూటిలైజేషన్ ఎక్కువైంది అనుకో, స్లో అయిపోతాయి అనమాట. మీరు గవర్నమెంట్ వెబ్సైట్స్ అవి చూస్తుంటారు కదా, ఈవెన్ ఐఆర్సిటిసి వెబ్సైట్, నాట్ నవ్ ఇట్ ఇస్, బట్ ఒక 2-3 years ముందు, ఈవెన్ ఇప్పుడు కూడా తత్కాల్ టైమింగ్స్ అప్పుడు ఇట్ విల్ బి డామ్ స్లో, రైట్? ఎందుకంటే అందరూ ఒకేసారి వచ్చి ఆ బుక్ చేయాలని ట్రై చేస్తారనమాట. మార్నింగ్ 10 AM 11 AM ఏదో టైమింగ్స్ తత్కాల్ ఆ టైంకి. ఇప్పుడు ఇంప్రూవ్ అయింది కానీ, బట్ ఇంతకుముందు అయితే వరస్ట్గా ఉండేది. ఓపెన్ అవుతుంది, నువ్వు పేమెంట్ దగ్గరికి వచ్చేసరికి పేజ్ కెనాట్ బి ఫౌండ్ అని వస్తుంది. ఎంత ఇరిటేషన్గా ఉంటుంది అప్పుడు. సో అట్లాంటి ఇష్యూస్ అవాయిడ్ చేయడానికి వీ హ్యావ్ గాట్ ఎ కాన్సెప్ట్ ఆఫ్ సిపి యూటిలైజేషన్, డిస్క్ యూటిలైజేషన్, నెట్వర్క్ యూటిలైజేషన్, మెమరీ యూటిలైజేషన్. ఇవి ఏమైనా కానీ if it is going beyond 60%, if it is going beyond 70%, you can create an alert. ఎందుకంటే అట్లీస్ట్ you still have some time to resolve that issue, because 60% in the server is a huge utilization. They will always keep 50% free. అట్లా డిజైన్ చేస్తారన్నమాట సర్వర్స్ కెపాసిటీస్. లేకపోతే if there is any unexpected load, your server will be hanged. It will be, sometimes it may go for a crash as well, right? It will be corrupted, whatever you call, and the performance will be very slow. And sometimes if it is crashed, the end users will not be able to access applications. If you want to correlate that one with real-time example, in around 2014-15, it seems, when there was a big billion day of Flipkart, there was a big sale, and Flipkart was not ready with that load, and they did not expect like the user load will be very high. And all of a sudden, when the sale has opened, most of the customers like us has opened the Flipkart, and they were looking for offers, and everyone was facing an issue at the payment gateway because the limit at the back end is very less, and the users, whoever is uh, accessing that Flipkart website and app, their like performance is very slow. I mean, they're accessing it very slow. And then they have stopped that big billion day sale for one day, and then they have increased the capacity in the backend. At that time, it was not in Azure. After few years, Flipkart has moved to Azure. Okay, Vola is also in Azure. In the peak times, you might be seeing some delays in that uh, cab bookings and the route maps and everything in the city especially. Okay, so this is very crucial to configure alerts. And same thing, you can configure alerts using this alert rule. These are the inbuilt sections. We have seen how to create alerts and how to create action groups. I'm not going to repeat at this stage. Only the conditions will get changed. Okay. Metrics, as we know, we have seen this one as well. Metrics will be different for each and every service. Ante enti, for liquids, we'll be measuring it in liters, ml, like that. Right? Same thing. For storage here, we will be looking after data capacity, like how many terabytes of data has been used on that. For internet, we'll be using data. For servers, we have got CPU utilization. Okay, data disk read bytes. You will see the graph here. Okay, not all of these rules will be useful. Only few can be configured as part of the enterprise requirements. See here, percentage CPU. సో ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ మన VM1 యూటిలైజేషన్ ఎంత ఉంది? 20% మాత్రమే ఉంది, విచ్ ఈస్ వెరీ లెస్. అంటే ఏంటి, అక్కడ యూటిలైజేషన్ జరగట్లేదు, ఊరికే ఉన్నా కూడా ఒకసారి యావరేజ్ గా చూసుకోవచ్చు. ఇక్కడ యావరేజ్ CPU is 5% ఓన్లీ, రైట్? Utilization is very, very less. And same thing here. Diagnostic settings I'm going to discuss in next session. Logs, connection monitor, workbooks. This will be under log analytics workspace. So tomorrow I'll cover this diagnostic settings, which I have skipped as part of our storage discussion. This is very important. Now I'm coming back to Bastion. Okay, see here, Bastion host is created. If you want to see Bastion exclusively, search for bastions, where you'll see all the bastions. Click on this. You will have some settings here also. Okay, so this will record from where and from which location and at what time you have connected. Everything will be recorded in this section. Okay, who has connected and what is the IP address, what is the protocol, everything will be connected. Now, can we use the same bastion for another virtual machine? Let's see that one as well. ఇక్కడ ఉన్నాయి కదా ప్రాక్టీస్ VMs అవి, అక్కడ ట్రై చేద్దాం. Bastion. See here. Let me choose my resource group. It is not giving you an option to create a bastion. It means not create, not to use, execute, not to use existing bastion. Okay, so let's go with this. Our bastion is created. It means you can use only one bastion at a time. బట్ అన్ని కావాలంటే కాస్ట్ ఎక్కువ అవుతుంది, గుర్తుపెట్టుకోండి. మరి ఎలాగా? ఒక bastion యూస్ చేసి, లెట్స్ సే I'll draw the diagram. సో లెట్స్ సే నా దగ్గర ఒక 10 VMs ఉన్నాయి. ఓకే, వాట్ ఎవర్ ద నెంబర్ యూ హ్యావ్. And let's say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 VMs. Now, if you want to create a bastion for each and every virtual machine, you have to pay 6 times into bastion cost, right? Because you're creating one standalone bastion for each and every virtual machine. What I'm going to do is I'll create a one virtual machine here, and I'm going to enable VNet to VNet peering. ఇది కూడా ఇంటర్లే కాబట్టి ఇక్కడికి ఇక్కడికి ఇవన్నీ కలిపి ఒక VNet లో ఉంటాయి, ఇది ఒక VNet లో ఉంటుంది. ఐ విల్ ఐసోలేట్ ఇట్. ఈ రెండింటికి VNet to VNet peering ఎనేబుల్ చేస్తాను. అప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, డైరెక్ట్ కనెక్షన్ ఉంటుంది త్రూ నెట్వర్క్, నాట్ ద ఇండివిజువల్ మెషిన్స్, డైరెక్ట్ కనెక్షన్ త్రూ ద ఎంటైర్ నెట్వర్క్. ఆ నెట్వర్క్ లో ఏమైతే డివైస్ ఉంటాయో అన్నిటికీ ఉంటుంది అనమాట. ఇప్పుడు ఏం చేస్తాను, ఈ ఒక్క మెషిన్ మాత్రం నేను బాస్టియన్ ఇస్తాను. సో ప్రతిసారి ఏం చేస్తాను, నేను ఎంతమంది ఉన్నా కూడా అందరికీ ఈ బాస్టియన్ యాక్సెస్ ఇస్తాను. ఇఫ్ దే వాంట్ టు వర్క్ ఫ్రమ్ రిమోట్ లొకేషన్, దే విల్ లాగ్ ఇన్ టు దిస్ బాస్టియన్. ఇక్కడ నుండి వాళ్ళకి ఏది కావాలంటే అది కనెక్ట్ అవ్వచ్చు, డిపెండ్స్ ఆన్ దేర్ రిక్వైర్మెంట్. Okay, now let's come back to this bastion, and you have to give the username and password what you have given at the time of VM creation. I'm giving the password and username here. This should be accurate, otherwise it's going to be You have to allow పాపప్స్. ఇక్కడ చూసారా, నా సిస్టంలో నేను పాపప్స్ బ్లాక్ అయినాయి అనమాట. ఇది చూసుకోవాలి ఫస్ట్. ఓకే, అండ్ ఓపెన్ ఇన్ ఏ న్యూ బ్రౌజర్ ట్యాబ్. చూద్దాం, ఇక్కడ వర్క్ అవుతుంది, ఇక్కడ డిస్ప్లే అవుతుంది మనకి. కనెక్ట్, లెట్స్ see, it is trying to connect. Allow. See here, you are able to log into the virtual machine through the browser only. So this is mainly for security purpose. We are not directly integrating our public IP address to virtual machine, but we have used indirectly using a different port number. ఇక్కడ నాకు అప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, నెట్వర్కింగ్ లో 3389 పోర్ట్ అవసరం లేదు నాకు. I can close it because I'm going through different port number. అప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది, ఈ HTTPS పోర్ట్ ని ఎవరైనా హ్యాక్ చేయాలంటే ఇట్ విల్ బి డిఫికల్ట్ ఫర్ దెమ్. ఇట్ ఈస్ నాట్ దట్ మచ్ ఈజీ because it is a secure protocol and it is in encrypted state. Okay, if it is in encrypted state, it is difficult to handle with that encryption state for any hacker. Okay, so that's the benefit of this Azure Bastion. సో ఇప్పుడు మనం యాజ్ యూజువల్ గా మనం బ్రౌజ్ చేసుకున్నట్టు ఇంకొక పేజ్కి వెళ్ళొచ్చు, మళ్ళీ ఈవీఎంకి రావచ్చు. ఇఫ్ యూ వాంట్ టు సీ ద డిస్క్స్, లెట్స్ సే ఫైల్ ఎక్స్ప్లోరర్. ఈ మెషిన్ లో మనకు కావాల్సిన టెంపరరీ స్టోరేజ్ ఉంటుంది, అడిషనల్ డిస్క్స్ ఏమైతే అన్నీ ఉంటాయి, అప్లికేషన్స్ ఏమైనా కాన్ఫిగర్ చేసి ఉంటే అవన్నీ ఉంటాయి, అండ్ సర్వర్ రోల్స్ ఏమైనా ఉంటే అన్నీ ఉంటాయి. ఎవ్రీథింగ్ ఈజ్ యాజ్ యూజువల్, ఓన్లీ ద కనెక్టివిటీ టైప్ that you are doing for Azure virtual machine is different. That's it. Okay, any question here? Okay,
No,
so try. Okay, so I'm going to delete this bastion also because that will take additional cost for us because we have got only limited credits. మీరు చేసినప్పుడు కూడా అలాగే చేయండి, పబ్లిక్ ఐపీ అడ్రస్ తో డిలీట్ చేసేయండి. ఎలా చేయాలి, లెట్ మీ స్టాప్ రికార్డింగ్.